It's time for the best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
Indeed it does, and great to have you with us on this Tuesday edition of the show with a lot to do over the next 60 minutes. Brian Kenny of MLB Network, MLB Now host. He'll join us coming up in about 10 minutes. Get some thoughts with him on all things baseball. A lot of football to talk about on the show as well today. Sam Yarnell is here, hanging out with us as he always does. And if there is football to talk about, why not a little Monday Night Football, Sam? We always do these What We Learned segments. And I know it's kind of hard to discern that from a preseason game. But I think there is a lot to take away when it comes to the Commanders and Bengals and what we saw last night in this preseason game. And I'll start right from the get-go, and that is Cincinnati, and we said this after their first preseason game, and I'll say it again after the second one, they are going to be a handful for anybody from a defensive standpoint. The big problem for them is they have been a slow starter the last couple of seasons. They cannot get out of their own way over the first half of the season, and then they, inexorably figure out a way to put it together later in the year. Okay. I don't know the impetus for that to change right now. When you look, I just think they got hit in the face with a waffle maker as far as the schedule goes. And that's obviously going to throw a lot at them. And this Trey Hendrickson situation just continues to go unresolved. And I feel like his position gets stronger every week with their offense being as good as it is. Ownership has to step back and say, my God, this is, the one big missing piece that we can add to this defense that can obviously help us in a season where we've got one of the best quarterbacks in the league. We have one of the best receiving tandems in the league. I feel like the ownership position gets weaker. And then I remember it's the Bengals who sat and waited forever and told Carson Palmer, you just stay out and we'll come get you someday, or you come to us. And it never happened, and eventually he wound up on the Cardinals. Sam, what is your big takeaway when you watched this Bengals-Commanders matchup in week 2 of the preseason?
Yeah, obviously it's, that this defense is not up to snuff against anybody. Like, I don't think this defense, quite frankly, would have a good game against the New England Patriots offense, as wild as that sounds. I think the New England, if this were week 1 of last year, like those two teams met up in week 1 of last year, I think the Patriots would probably beat them again. And it would be a high scoring game, don't get me wrong, but this defense is going to struggle massively this season. And, Jason, when they fired Lou Anarumo, I sat here on this show and scratched my head and said, that doesn't seem like the answer to fixing this defense.
It was rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic was essentially what it was.
It's a guy who was set up for failure with the talent that the front office put around him, and then the front office just took it out on him that they didn't put the talent around him. So that's going to continue. I understood the move to bring in Al Golden. I mean, somewhat successful at Notre Dame as a defensive coordinator and had familiarity with the Cincinnati organization. But, clearly it's not a coordination issue. It's not a game plan issue. It's a talent issue, which, quite frankly, is pretty rare in the NFL. And it's not an issue that Trey Hendrickson solves. I'm sorry. Even if they bring back Trey Hendrickson, it's a very small Band-Aid on a very big bullet hole in terms of the Cincinnati defense. I am worried about the Cincinnati Bengals. This team is going to be very fun to bet the over in their games this season because they're going to score a lot of points and they're going to give up a lot of points, Jason.
How about it from the Commanders side of things? The Brian Robinson issue they're dealing with. Obviously, Terry McLaurin's absence continues to sort of stick out to this team, but you had to like what you saw from Jaden Daniels.
Well, yeah, and I think the big story going into and coming out of this game is the one they call Bill, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, the new running back and seemingly RB1 for the Commanders. I think that this is going to be great for the Washington offense. It seems like he's an explosive back. You kind of feel for Brian Robinson and the situation he's been put in because of this, in a guy who was either a late round pick or an undrafted free agent, shined in training camp and stole that job right out from under Brian Robinson Jr. So I don't know where Brian Robinson will end up. Maybe Houston has another open spot in that backfield for a younger character this time. But yeah, I am excited about Bill Krosky-Merritt on the Washington offense. I think it'll be a big year for them. When the starters were in, and they weren't even all in. Let's not get it twisted here. The starting skill players were in, but their best offensive line was not in the game, and the offense still looked prolific. So I'm excited for the Commanders once again this season. I don't think they'll have as good of a season as they had last year postseason wise. But the division could be theirs to win.
Yeah, I think it's obviously there for them again. I look, and I love Josh Johnson as a veteran backup guy, but they've got to keep Jaden Daniels upright, and I still get nervous watching him run the football. I still worry about, the way he throws his, he's willing to throw his body around, and I hope as he continues to mature and age and get older in this league, he figures out how to run smarter, not harder, and put himself in positions where he could potentially be hurt, because this team cannot afford to be without him. And we still have to answer the Terry McLaurin question, Sam. And I don't know what the answer to that is right now, and I don't know if the Commanders know what the answer to that is right now.
I mean, when we talked to Diana Rossini about it, what was that, last week? Yeah. It doesn't seem, and I mean, the reporting has kind of stayed consistent. It doesn't seem like the two sides are very far apart. He's not a guy who I'm, for instance, staying away from in fantasy, which is generally what you do if this kind of situation you'd feel like were to persist. It seems like, he's with the team. He's out at practice. He's got somewhat decent relationship with ownership in the front office. I think the deal eventually gets done. It seems like there are just a lot of brass tacks to hammer out.
The Bengals schedule, by the way, they referenced it just a couple of moments ago, and I just want to kind of shout it out to you here. The Bengals regular season schedule, if you're wondering at home, at the Browns to start, okay. Home for the Jags, okay. Then at the Vikings, at the Broncos, home for the Lions, at the Packers, home for the Steelers. I mean, their first seven is not easy, Sam. And, think what you want of Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is going to pick that defense apart, come week 7, if this is sort of what it looks like right now. Now, if Trey Hendrickson's there, it's a different story, and Aaron Rodgers will be running for his life all day. But if there's no Trey Hendrickson there, definitely some stuff to be nervous about. Real quick.
Obviously, the first 2 of those first 6 games are the easiest, and Zach Taylor's record in the first 2 games through his last 6 seasons as the Bengals head coach, 1-11.
We're coming back. Brian Kenny from MLB Network, talking baseball next. And this Tuesday edition of Sports Wrap continues all across the U.S. and Canada. Great to have you all with us. Let's talk some baseball. Let's not waste any time. Let's jump right into it with our man Brian Kenny. Does a terrific job with MLB Network. MLB Now, noon Eastern, Monday through Friday, I guess. Am I right? Yeah? Am I close?
Yeah. Weekdays is another way of saying it.
Yeah, weekdays. Sure. By the way, I've been watching a lot of this Little League World Series. Do you watch the Little League World Series? Do you have time? Can you make time?
No.
Really?
No.
Can't be bothered?
I'm fine with it. I don't watch it. I've never had tremendous interest in it, to be honest. And now, if I'm deciding what I'm going to watch Major League games.
All right.
That's the job. But I look, I coach my sons in Little League. It's awesome. But I don't know. I don't get thrilled with 12-year-old all-stars in real life. Yes, but as a TV show, who are the best 12-year-olds? It doesn't interest me.
Yeah, I just marvel at some of the size of these kids at 12 years old, and I'm just looking at them going, how's this kid throwing 80 miles an hour?
Yeah. And also, like, we're steering toward the super kid. Like, I get it. I was, I think when my sons were playing, and this is now 20 years ago, and I was coaching. And again, I love youth baseball. I love Little League baseball. My favorite baseball memories are coaching my sons in Little League. So I'm not saying, I don't like kids playing baseball. I love kids baseball. being living in it, doing it, not watching it on TV.
Yeah.
But it was the last vestiges of Little League where all the kids in the neighborhood play.
Yes.
And now see the players are better, but it's a silo of a smaller group that gets the coaching, that gets on the all-star teams, that gets on travel teams, that plays year-round. When my kids were playing against, not all that long ago, my kids were playing like everybody played all the sports.
Yes.
You know, whatever sport you felt like playing. Now I saw it as my kids got older, where even my daughter was like, "I've got to start playing volleyball in the off season if I'm going to, be a captain. I've got to, And she played in college, my middle daughter. But I saw that happen where I need to start playing this sport year round, and that I get it. But that's kind of a shame.
Let me ask you something. In a season where it felt like there was no breakaway team, the Dodgers were dealing with injuries and they were just kind of meandering. Are the Dodgers still that breakaway team when they want to be? Is this just a question of a team that, the championship hangover? Is it the combination of that and the injuries? Are the Dodgers still that team? Because I still think when push comes to shove, somebody will beat the Brewers in the playoffs. They always lose. Make the argument of where I'm wrong in this.
Yeah, no, you're not completely wrong. You're kind of wrong. You're not completely wrong. No, the Dodgers, I put it this way. The Dodgers have the biggest engine, right? They have the most horsepower. But the Brewers are running a better race. The Brewers are smaller, they're more efficient, and they're kicking their tails. But you're right. Come playoff time, if the Dodgers, and they showed it this weekend with the Padres, just rolling out their regular pitchers, including Kershaw, who's quite good this year. But they did Kershaw, Snell, and Glasnow. Glasnow is good, not great, but they're quality. And that's not even their best pitcher, who's Yamamoto. And it's not counting Ohtani, who I think should open, but that's another story. But I've said all year, there's something missing with the Dodgers, like for a super team. Not for a good team. They're good. They can't help but be good. But I think we operate on the basis of, at least I do, their spending spree as a defending World Series champ was unprecedented. Over the last 2 years, Jason, you know this, but they've spent $1.6 billion, won a World Series, and went out and did it again last year, just buying everything up in sight. So it's like a hedge fund global takeover. So the fact that they're sputtering, right, is interesting and kind of fun, right? Because they're by and large likable. They're not an unlikable group.
I agree.
From top down, it's kind of a model. They're the model organization, and they're good guys left and right. Mookie and Freddie Freeman and Dave Roberts.
Teoscar Hernandez, yeah,
love them. But when you go for global dominance, there's going to be some pushback.
Yeah,
and so they have sputtered. But I think you're still thinking of these as another group of Brewers. This is a different, grittier bunch that does have star power. Losing Adames was a lot. Contreras, Yelich, Churio when he's back, and a big three. They have three number ones that are going to be coming at you in the playoffs. It's going to be, I think it could be very well be a different story.
Brian, I'm so glad you said that about the Dodgers because you're someone who's so connected in the baseball world. You're talking with current and former players and executives on a daily basis. I'm curious with regard to the Dodgers and specifically how they've handled this plethora of injuries they've had this season from the top down. What has the perception inside baseball been and or changed to with regard to that Dodgers management and how they've handled this season?
Well, I think most teams are, envious in a way, and look at them. Like clearly the Mets, right? Look at Steve Cohen has said from the outset, they look to the Dodgers for the way it should be done. Operating and firing on all cylinders, and then using their, financial, strength to get, just bigger and badder. So there, I think it's I don't know if it's envy as much as it's like respect. But it's also like, you're competing, so it's with a bit of an edge. But they also, like along those lines with all the injuries, like I've stopped throwing that out there as well. They just have a lot of injuries. They buy high risk guys, like they do. That's their model, and I used to agree with it because when most of baseball was looking to, hey, we need innings, we need the horse. Like we want, if you're going to get on the free agent market, everybody has Jack Morris in mind. Get Jack Morris. And the Dodgers were like, no, get Alex Wood. Alex Wood is as good as who you think of, if it's Zack Wheeler or Jack Morris, the horse type. Alex Wood is as good. Rich Hill is as good. They're just going to give you 90 to 120 innings. They're not going to give you 200 innings of that. So that's their model. So Tyler Glass now, he's hurt. Oh, what are we surprised? It's like, Lance McCullers is on his way back. Of course, every year Lance McCullers is on his way back. These are they buy thoroughbreds who break down. So I don't even float that excuse. Well, they've had a lot of injuries. Oh, well, that's what they buy. They buy the thoroughbred, so they have a lot of injuries. To your point on your question, they're seen as the model organization, but there is a little bit of normal jealousy and envy in that they have a monstrous payroll. Even GMs that I talk to don't even talk about, hey, they're the number one payroll with 323. They're spending 400 million. And most everybody else is playing with 170 to 200. So it's a very different game that they're playing.
Brian Kenny's hanging out with us. We got more to do with him on the other side. We'll talk plenty of baseball on this Tuesday edition of Sports Wrap. Catch him on MLB Now, weekdays at noon. We're coming back. All right, let's take it to segment 3 on this Tuesday edition of Sports Wrap. We're hanging out with Brian Kenny. MLB Now on MLB Network, weekdays at noon. So, you're near the belly of the beast, so I'd be remiss if I didn't ask about the Yankees and Mets and what you sort of make of where these two teams are. Yankees have won 7 of 10, playing a little better. Trying to figure out, the pieces of this bullpen as Aaron Boone right now. Is it crazy? Are the people calling for his head? Is it crazy talk? Because I'm one of those people that doesn't necessarily look at him as a manager that can get you across the finish line. But has the coverage of him been fair when it comes to the defensive lapses, the base running lapses? I'm kind of curious where you come from on this.
I think there's a little higher level of scrutiny in New York, and that it's the Yankees, and they are good, and they have the best player in baseball on their club. And again, last year's loss in the World Series was more than just a loss. That was a very public breakdown, a car crash in Game 5. So I get it. And there's something there's something not quite happening. Where they're not more than the sum of their parts, like the Brewers are, or even the Blue Jays. Blue Jays have like an identity. The Yankees, I'll say this, I think Brian Cashman deserves some credit now for trying to make them a little more baseball-y. That's my term, that we do baseball-y plays like
Caballero, McMahon, Caballero, exactly. Ahmad Rosario.
Can you get somebody who defends, somebody who runs? Jazz Chisholm was a run in that direction. Like even Jazz Chisholm last year, I remember during one of the playoff games, he scored on a play from second that I haven't seen a Yankee score from second since Bernie Williams was 24. I've never seen Yankees just take an extra base that he didn't deserve. I was like, wow, they kind of got an extra run there. They just don't play that. You get used to, Judge can run well for a huge man. Stanton can't run at all. There's even Paul Goldschmidt, who is an excellent base runner. He's older now. So, but, getting Bellinger and getting Goldschmidt, who's fundamentally excellent, although he's old now, and now going McMahon for defense, pushing Chisholm to second. Caballero can run and play the outfield. They're a much better baseball team on the field.
Brian, just down the New Jersey Turnpike in Philadelphia, one of the big stories of this week is Zack Wheeler and this blood clot issue he's dealing with. Obviously, they've still got one of the best pitchers in the National League in Christopher Sanchez in that rotation. But what do you think this means for the Phillies' postseason chances?
No, I think it's a big balance of power shift. If he's not back, that's the number. In a lot of ways, you could say it's the number one pitcher in the game with his durability. And Skeens and Skubal have kind of passed him by, but he was still excellent and playoff proven, which I think, it's largely a misnomer, but certain guys do it and do it again and again. And once you do that, you're a different animal. And I think he's one of those guys. I think it's a big shift because in the National League, we're talking about the Brewers are the best team in baseball. They're proving it. But the Dodgers have the largest engine. And the Phillies are another big lumbering superpower like the Dodgers. They're big and bad. But it's a big, big loss. Phillies are still quite good, but there's no question. Like first time I saw that story and the Wheeler out, I'm like, wow, that's big. That changes the equation.
3 wild card teams right now in the American League: Yankees, Boston, Seattle. Will all 3 of those teams be the wild cards? If not, who jumps in?
Yeah, no, I think they are. Where Cleveland is closest.
Cleveland is 2 out. Cleveland's 2 out. KC is 3 out.
Yeah, no, I mean, those are, I'll switch analogies from, race cars and horses to boxers. They're lightweights, they're junior welterweights playing against, full-size heavyweight clubs, because the Mariners are a heavyweight club. Yankees, Red Sox too. They're fully armed. And now if either one of them, Cleveland and Kansas City, clearly have some top talent, they're not as deep, they don't have the payroll. If they had jumped out, I wouldn't rule out that they could hold off one of these flawed teams. But the fact that Seattle and the Yankees, the Red Sox, are up, I don't see Cleveland going on the type of sustained run to catch them.
Of the 3 teams in the National League, Cubs, Padres, Mets, the one most in danger, the Mets? I mean, can you see the Mets missing out and Cincinnati getting in? I've been a big cheerleader for the Reds this year.
Yeah, I know. And I thought that too. Like, now that Hunter Green is back, let them run through that rotation a few times. I think Green's been back, once, twice. And he was excellent. He's a top 5 starter. And the Mets were just losing in inexplicable fashion night after night. I'm in New York, so I'll go to SNY, and they're a really good broadcast. Ron Darling's on our show all the time. It's just like listening to, Ron and Keith and Gary Cohen. So I'll just watch Mets baseball. So I'm just watching and thinking, oh my God, they're going to lose again. Like that 12 out of 14 or whatever it was just incredible. They're better than that, but there's something kind of missing. So no, they are in danger. And again, the Reds are a nice, well-rounded team now, and they're totally unproven. But I think that rotation revolves around a couple of times. You're going to see just how good their starting pitching can be in theory. And if we see it in practice, yeah, they could run down the Mets.
Brian, it's been quite the last 5 days for interactions between batters and pitchers and catchers, between the Victor Robles thing happening on the rehab assignment and Tommy Pham happening on Monday night. You've been around baseball a long time. I'm curious, over that time, how have you seen on-field interactions in those tense moments kind of change and evolve to where they are today?
I tell you what, I think it's evolved with society, where now that the Pham thing like last night, which I think is fascinating because it's very nuanced. He thought he was trying to steal a strike, and he thought he was not showboating, but kind of showing up the ump. So when he didn't get the call, you do the swipe in, and hold it, and he didn't get the call, and he was beefing about it. So it's just very nuanced where Pham was like, you're insulting the umpire. That was his quote, his tweet or his quote afterwards. These guys are much more polite. They're much more polished. So when you see something like we saw, like Robles throwing a bat, of course, is dangerous and insane. But immediately I'm thinking Burt Campaneris. I was watching that game as a
Juan
kid.
Marichal. I was thinking of Carl Everett with the Bridgeport Bluefish. I mean, my God.
Yeah, again, these are like kind of unstable guys. The Marichal attack, Roseboro attack is insane. But I mean, like Campaneris, just flung a bat in the championship series over Laren LeGros' head. Guys were rougher in the old days, much rougher, much ready to fist fight. Pham is one of those rare guys that right now you feel like he's always ready to fight. The league was filled with those guys back in the 80s and 70s.
Brian Kenny, MLB Network, MLB Now, Monday through Friday, noon Eastern. Catch him there. I always appreciate you, my friend. Thanks for hanging out with us on this Tuesday.
Always good talking baseball with you guys. Thank you.
All right, coming up in 10 minutes, how do you like your rivalries served? I'll tell you how I don't like them. That's coming up. U.S. Open tennis. Mixed doubles, I think, is this week. They've got their Hall of Fame induction ceremonies this week. Trying to get Patrick McEnroe on the show. It's a hard guy to get a hold of. He's a busy man. So trying to work that out for this week. Sam Yarnell, let's talk some football. Every day until we get through all the divisions, we are going through the league and asking the question, if not, then who? It's the game everybody's playing now, where we go through each division and we ask the question, if not the favorite to win the division, we've done this now for the AFC East and the AFC North. Today we're doing the AFC South. If not the favorite to win the division, then who? And in the case of the AFC South, Sam Yarnell, if not the Houston Texans, then who? Now, the first couple of days, we had, first couple of exercises we did this with. We had the Bills in the AFC East, which is a pretty easy one. Nobody else is winning that division in all likelihood. The AFC North is a little different with the Ravens and Bengals competing atop that division. You could make an argument for the Bengals, who I think their numbers come down a little now. It's plus 260, by the way, for them to win the division. The Ravens at minus 155. But then in the AFC South, it's the Texans as your favorite at plus 115. Then you have the Jaguars and Colts at 3-1. Something on my microphone. Jaguars and Colts at 3-1, plus 300. And then the Titans at plus 700. It's kind of remarkable to me, by the way, that the Titans have better odds. Maybe it's not remarkable. Just looking at it, I'm just surprised that number is where it is on the Titans. I think it'd be a bigger number. But anyway, if not the Texans, Sam Yarnell, then who?
Yeah, so not just a bigger number. The Titans, of all the longest odds to win their division in the AFC, have the shortest odds at 7-1.
Yeah.
Of all the projected fourth teams in their division. The Titans have the shortest odds to win it. And I think that speaks to what my answer to this is going to be. Anybody. Like, this division is so up for grabs to me. I think there is a world where the Titans win this division to me. If Cam Ward comes out and lights the world on fire and is the passer that he's showing us that he is in the preseason, if that maintains, right? If Tony Pollard picks up the slack from Tyjae Spears that he'll miss the first part of the season, if Tony Pollard can be what he's been throughout his career, one of the most underrated running backs in the NFL, the Titans could win this division, right? If Chigo Okonkwo's a serviceable tight end, the Titans could win this division.
You're talking yourself into it, Sam. You're talking yourself into it.
The Jacksonville Jaguars take about the same amount of talking into, though. That's the thing. Any team to win this division, you have to talk yourself into them winning the division. The Jacksonville Jaguars, yeah, Trevor Lawrence could come back after missing more than half the season last year, and maybe for the first time in his career, he'll be a competent regular season starter throughout the entirety of the regular season, sure. And then, with Travis Hunter, if he plays somewhat well, the Jaguars could easily win this division with all four of the running backs that they're seemingly going to roster. Sure, I could see that world. Maybe the Colts figure it out. Maybe Anthony Richardson finally takes the step that everybody in the league has been waiting for him to take, and Jonathan Taylor returns to being a top 5 running back in the league, and Michael Pittman takes that next step and gets that lockstep relationship with Anthony Richardson. Hey, maybe Michael Pittman's a top 15 wide receiver in the league this year, and maybe that Indianapolis defense steps up. You could make the justification or talk yourself into any one of these 4 teams winning this division, and quite frankly, it's just about as easy, if not easier, to talk yourself out of any one of these 4 teams winning this division.
I'll tell you who I'll talk myself out on. Indianapolis. The quarterback situation there, I'm still not high on Anthony Richardson. He hasn't given me a reason.
You hate Anthony Richardson.
I would say hate. Hate is a strong word. We reserve hate for only a select few people, Steve Cohen. And I don't mean Mets owner Steve Cohen, by the way. You can go look him up. I reserve hate for very few people. I don't hate Anthony Richardson. I just think that the reality of Anthony Richardson versus the fantasy of Anthony Richardson are 2 diametrically opposed things. I don't think they are one and the same. But when I look at the division, honestly, I mean, why not Jacksonville? I'll make my argument. I know. I've been a Trevor Lawrence guy. I've been a Trevor Lawrence apologist for a long time. But here's the thing. Oh,
wait, what's that? The clock's turning to August? Yep, time for Jason to fall in love with Trevor Lawrence again.
Here's my argument on Trevor Lawrence, though. The expectations now are so low. after the last couple of years. And I think that's going to help him. I think we're kind of back to where we were a few years ago when he had a really nice season and got all that money. I think Trevor Lawrence could be primed for a big season. The only problem I see is, who's he throwing the football to? In Jacksonville. I'm not sold on this receiving core for this football team. And that's part of the argument that I got to try and make is Trevor Lawrence the guy that enhances a wide receiving core that doesn't wow me? Not really. And I don't think he has the guys around him that necessarily make him look better. I mean, if I make you choose one real quick, because we only have 45 seconds. If I make you choose one.
It's not the Colts. I'll tell you right now, it's not the Colts, because on Tuesday we learned that Daniel Jones is going to be their week 1 starter. So you're exactly right about that QB mess that's going on in Indy.
So
anybody but the Colts. ABC, that's my pick to win.
I like it. You just came up with that. All right, I'll choose one. I'll be unlike Sam. I won't sit on a fence.
Give me the Titans.
I'll go Jags. I'll go the Jags. But I still think Houston wins the division. How's that? And that makes it 3 for 3 in this. We still think all the division winners win. Odds and Ends wraps it up 10 minutes from now. Everything we wanted to get to during the show and just ran out of time. It's coming up. All right, Sam Yarnell. Let's talk about rivalries. What got me thinking about this was a story that we didn't get to yesterday on the show, but I wanted to, and that was what transpired in Cincinnati between Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner, and the two were supposed to meet up in the final there. And first of all, I want to know how much people paid. In Cincinnati, you get lucky enough to get a final like Sinner and Alcaraz. There were probably people that paid some huge money to be able to say, I was at a Sinner-Alcaraz final, Sam. Well, if you paid a lot of money, as my old friend Warner Wolf used to say on CBS, if you paid a lot of money for Sinner and Alcaraz, you lost, because, God, that was awful. Alcaraz led 5-love before Sinner decided, you know what, I've had enough. I'm not feeling good. Supposedly it wasn't anything like physical. It was as much, I know. It was supposedly some sort of illness.
Oh,
maybe the illness was being down 5-love in the first
Maybe it was the Buffalo Wild Wings he put on his Instagram story that morning.
Could have been. It could have been. But people didn't get to obviously get the final they wanted. If you bought those tickets on the secondhand market for big bucks, I am truly sorry. But it brings a bigger point up, because you had, after the match, Alcaraz coming over and consoling him for several minutes. And I'm watching these two. And while it will be fun to watch them on the court going back and forth at each other for the next decade, essentially, as the next faces of tennis, I can't help but wish we had a little more vitriol, a little more angst between the two. And we live in this era, where there are some rivalries that still exist, especially in some of these individual sports, guys just get along better. Guys just, they compete on the court and they're friends off it. And as much as I'd like to get excited about Sinner and Alcaraz, and I'll watch when they play because it's the highest level of tennis you could possibly get, at the same time, I can't help but it's almost like wrestling at this point, where they're in the ring beating the crap out of each other in WWE, and then you see a couple of weeks later some behind-the-scenes stuff where they're hanging out at, a Starbucks together. It's not real, that competition. I don't know. I wish there was more animosity between the two. I don't want it to be contrived. I don't want it to be fake, Sam. But I want to see my rivals like Borg and McEnroe, that have a dislike for each other. There was even a healthy dislike with Nadal and Federer. It was healthy though, but there was a dislike there. I want to see more of that.
So there's a sociological aspect that I will get into in a second that I think affects all of this in a greater scheme. But on the subject, first of all, tennis is a hilarious sport because you will get the two best players in the world, Sinner and Alcaraz, playing against each other in Southern Ohio at 3 p.m. on a Monday. Like, that's just what tennis is, and part of the reason it rocks. Part of the reason it sucks is because you have players like Jannik Sinner at the top of the game. This is embarrassing. It should be a blemish on tennis as a sport. I hope Jannik recognizes that. This is an ATP 1000 event. This is by no means just a run-of-the-mill country club tournament. And Jannik Sinner, as I alluded to previously, is eating breakfast at Buffalo Wild Wings on match day when he's going to go play for a trophy, posting it on his Instagram story, and then withdrawing, and you're not going to convince me otherwise of this, simply because he was fearful of being double bageled by who is really the best and most natural, that's a different conversation, player in the world in Carlos Alcaraz. On the subject of rivalries, though, and how these, fierce competitors have gotten so much closer with each other, as you saw the two yesterday, it's because in sports across the board, across the world, we've gotten to a point where monetarily, you've created a different class. Right? You've created the athlete class of human beings. They live different lives than Jason and I do. They live different lives than you do at home. And because of that, because of the unique lives that they live and things that they get to do because they're, good at whatever sport they're good at, better than, 99% of humanity, they earn more money than 99% of humanity and get to do cooler things than 99% of humanity. So when you're stuck in that bubble, that is a very small world once you get into it, there's not really any getting out, and you really just learn to interact with the other people within that bubble, even if they're your fiercest rival on the court.
I wonder if that explains why in the WNBA, the rivalries and the hatred seems to be much more real. I wonder, because there isn't a huge sum of money that's being made. And I wonder if that dynamic changes some when the salaries increase. If we're talking about kumbaya all around, because we're all making $250,000 a year or $300,000 a year, which is still being underpaid. But I wonder if that dynamic changes, Sam, in the WNBA, where the hatred and those kind of rivalries still exist.
I think it's fair. We're like the meme right now of the brain just getting bigger. Galaxy Brain. Who are the highest paid players in the WNBA right now? Caitlin Clark, Asia Wilson, Kelsey Plum. Maybe not Kelsey Plum, but you get my point. Yeah. Who are the players you don't see in beefs? Those ones.
It's true. It's very true. They can rise above it because they make more above it. We're coming back. All right, just about time to wrap things up on this Tuesday edition of the show. Whole bunch of baseball to talk about on the show tomorrow. That would be a Wednesday edition of the program. Before we throw it to odds and ends, a couple of reminders. If you have not done so yet, make sure to subscribe to the Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast. We are on all your favorite podcasting platforms. It is this show in its audio form only. Commercial-free Monday through Friday. Available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Odyssey, Amazon. Anywhere you get a podcast, you get a podcast, you get a podcast. Everybody gets a podcast. Go and check it out today. You will not regret it. Subscribe. Does us a favor as well. If you love watching the show, on over 270, almost 300 affiliates. That number is actually about to grow for the start of football season with some great affiliates coming on board. If you love watching the show, but sometimes you can't catch it on television, you could also watch it on Spotify and YouTube. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel is up and running, and we've got videos of the show there for you Monday through Friday, weekends with Sports Wrap shorts on there as well. Whenever news breaks, we will cover it with SportsWrap Shorts. Part of my conversation with Austin Dillon was a SportsWrap short yesterday. If you missed that conversation with the winner in Richmond in NASCAR's Cup Series this weekend, we had him on the show yesterday. Go watch the whole show. It's right there on YouTube. Again, I don't know what you're waiting for. Subscribe. Yeah, it's right there. Subscribe. The SportsWrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. And without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends, Sam Yarnell. We only mentioned it briefly because the news broke during the show, and I want to give it its just due because it is huge news out of the AFC South, which we talked about on this program today, and that is the fact that Daniel Jones, the former Giants starting quarterback, has been named the starter in Indianapolis, with Anthony Richardson getting backup duties. And as I've had some time to sort of marinate in this while we were putting together the show today, I have to ask the question, Sam, is this the end for Anthony Richardson in Indianapolis? It certainly feels that way at this point. You can't get the starting job over Daniel Jones?
I don't know if I'm ready to go that far. I mean...
It seems hard to believe. It seems hard to believe for me that they view Daniel Jones when we know what Daniel Jones is. I'm sorry, I'm jumping all over you here, but it does feel like we know the ceiling for Daniel Jones. We've seen it, and we still don't know what that is for Anthony Richardson. Don't you owe it to yourself as an organization to find out what that is?
Right, but what rules all, Jason? In life, in sports, what rules all? Money. Money rules all. Daniel Jones is the 5th highest player on the Indianapolis Colts.
Hey,
from a strictly business perspective, to an extent, and I'm not saying that it completely justifies the move or naming him the starter, that I would have done it, but to an extent, the correct business decision is see what you have in your more expensive asset so that you can get a better judgment of it. You're paying Anthony Richardson less money and you still have your team option for him, right? Like you are not anywhere near the in my opinion at least, you're not near the crossroads with Anthony Richardson. I understand he was a first round pick. I understand you have to exercise 5th-year option eventually. That said, you don't have to cross that bridge yet. So let's wait until we get to it to do so, right? Like there's no point in getting out over our skis if we're the Indianapolis Colts and not playing this guy who we just gave $14.5 million to in the offseason just to at least see what he's got and how he's fitting in this offense through training camp and through the preseason. I'm not giving up on Anthony Richardson. I understand some justification for starting Daniel Jones in week 1.
Here's the other question. Here's the open of their schedule. Home for the Dolphins, home for the Broncos, at the Titans, at the Rams, home for the Raiders, and home for the Cardinals. Over-under on how many games before we see Anthony Richardson starting for the Indianapolis Colts? Could they be 3-3? Could they be 3-3 through 6 games?
Yeah, and if they are, Anthony Richardson's seen the field.
You think? You don't think 3-3 is enough to keep Daniel Jones on the field?
I don't think Daniel Jones has some exorbitantly long leash. I think Daniel Jones, here's something I think that is good for the context of this conversation. I think Daniel Jones's leash is significantly shorter than Anthony Richardson's. And I think that's why they're starting him in week 1, is because with that short leash, you can yank on it at any time and go right to Anthony Richardson.
I just wonder what kind of Richardson you're getting back. I know he'll say all the right things, and he has been very good at saying all the right things over these first, couple of years in the league. But I just wonder mentally what's left after the sort of tug and pull, the push and pull of what his career has been so far between the injuries and sort of the malaise that he has found himself in within this organization. I really do question what kind of Anthony Richardson you're getting back. The bright side is, if Justin Fields could get a starting quarterback job with the New York Jets, Anthony Richardson, and I say it from a physical standpoint, the physical skill sets are similar. There's always going to be a team out there that believes in that sort of ability. We'll see.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah, it's going to wrap it up for us. Thank you to Brian Kenny. Thanks to you, Sam Yarnell. Thanks to all of you for watching at home. We appreciate you. We'll see you back here on Wednesday for more Sports Wrap. I'm Jason Page. See ya.